At the cheating story lab, the phone rang at 2:17 a.m., a sound I'd been anticipating since midnight while lodging in the guest room for 3 weeks. The caller ID was unknown, almost unanswered. "Don't hang up," pleaded the voice, thick with tears. "I recognize my position to you. I am aware of what I did, but you need to listen. Your wife, Clarissa, she is not who either of us believed her to be." Sitting upright, my hands were steady, a far cry from their trembling state 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, I would have been the one crying at 2:00 a.m., but I had spent the last 21 days observing the erosion of my 12-year marriage, witnessing the disdain in Clarissa's gaze that she no longer concealed, and amid this personal torment, I ceased being a victim and transformed into something more detached. "Speak," I commanded. The man introduced himself as Owen Casalano, aged 42, an orthopedic surgeon who had recently divorced. He crossed paths with Clarissa at a medical conference in Denver 7 months ago, and she accused me of being abusive. In essence, he admitted that our marriage was essentially over and he controlled the finances, while she was stuck. She was meticulously gathering evidence for her attorney, but required time to construct her case cautiously. He spoke uninterrupted about their affair, detailing hotel stays, weekend escapes she justified as visiting her sister in Phoenix, and a secret phone found in her gym bag 2 weeks prior. Owen claimed he had been deceived entirely. Earlier that day, his father passed away, leaving him $2.4 million after estate taxes, which he told Clarissa the previous day. By afternoon, she managed to persuade him to deposit $800,000 into a trust she created, insisting it would shield the money from his ex-wife's lawyers seeking to alter alimony. She presented official-looking documents and a notary. He complied with all papers. The bedroom door was shut while I presumed Clarissa was asleep in our former bed, located in the hallway. I approached the window, phone clutched tightly. Earlier today, I had mentioned it to my property lawyer, merely a casual chat. He turned pale, demanded immediate delivery of all documents, phoned me back an hour later. The trust supposedly in place, he declared, was a fabrication. The notary seal was counterfeit, and the account receiving the wire transfer belonged to Owen, his voice trembling. It was located in the Cayman Islands. Hidden behind 3 shell companies was the true owner, but my lawyer's investigator uncovered the connection. Each of these firms can be traced back to corporations created by a woman named Clarissa Hartwell, her maiden name. I filed a police report, Owen added. Allegations of federal wire fraud, identity theft, forgery, but the money had already vanished, transferred this morning to another account in Panama. My lawyer claims recovery is extremely unlikely. And when I attempted to contact her, your wife, her numbers were disconnected and her emails bounced back. It seemed she was never there at all. I strolled to my wardrobe, retrieved the file I'd been accumulating since discovering that pay-as-you-go phone, screenshots of texts I'd snapped before she erased them, credit card bills detailing expenses at hotels on days she asserted she was working, receipts from eateries unknown to me. "Owen," I whispered softly, "do you possess any information about her life prior to our encounter?" She claimed to be from Seattle, worked in pharmaceutical sales. We met at a conference 13 years ago. She hailed from Boise, never held a position in pharmaceutical sales. Instead, she was a legal assistant at a modest firm specializing in estate planning. Our paths crossed at a charity event my business sponsored, and I'm beginning to suspect that wasn't mere happenstance. I could hear Owen breathing on the other end, contemplating as my company deals with wealth management, high net worth clients, estate planning, trust administration, inheritance structuring. When Clarissa and I tied the knot, I was overseeing $100 million in client assets. Overseeing assets worth over $400 million, I've observed 12 years of wealthy individuals transferring funds, concealing assets, and securing inheritance. After a pause, Owen posed a question. "Do you believe she's done this before?" I sensed the need for investigation. I claimed a personal day, informing Clarissa about supposed client meetings. Instead, I navigated to a private investigation firm specializing in financial crimes in an adjacent county. The proprietor, Gabrielle Morrow, a former FBI forensic accountant, listened attentively as I spoke. Upon concluding, she expressed her concern about the timeline. "She doesn't leave you until after Owen's father passes away? That's quite precise. How would she know about his inheritance?" These were questions that had also crossed my mind. The meeting where they connected was the American College of Surgeons Symposium, 7 months prior. Gabrielle didn't attend the conference by chance. Attendees were publicly listed ahead of time for networking purposes. Thus, she was aware of who would be present. Typically, orthopedic surgeons at this specific gathering fit a certain profile, successful, often with inherited wealth from parents in their 70s and 80s. Quickly, her fingers danced across the keyboard. It turned out that Owen K. Zolano's father was 81. Public records revealed he owned multiple surgical centers and commercial real estate in Colorado. If one looks hard enough, such details aren't hard to find. She was tracking him down, I stated bluntly. There might be a possibility here, but we need to verify certain patterns. If she has done this before, there would be telltale signs: bank accounts created and closed, LLCs formed and dissolved, property transactions under shell companies, and crucially, Gabrielle emphasized, other victims. She quoted me $15,000 for a comprehensive forensic investigation. $5,000 was required up front. I withdrew funds from an investment account my father had bequeathed me, which Clarissa was unaware of. Since it was established before our marriage and I'd kept it hidden for such contingencies, I issued a check. Additionally, Gabrielle advised as I prepared to depart, don't disclose to your wife that you're investigating, don't alter your behavior. If she's astute enough to establish offshore accounts and shell companies, she's astute enough to have backup plans. We must maintain the illusion of her safety. That evening I returned home at my customary hour. Clarissa was in the kitchen preparing dinner as she had countless times before. She smiled upon my entry, a smile that once made my heart warm now sent shivers down my spine. How was your day? She asked. Good, I replied. Many meetings, how was yours? Oh, typical errands. I'm considering the yoga teacher training program I mentioned earlier, the comprehensive one in Santa Fe. It lasts 6 weeks and begins next month, 6 weeks. There was ample opportunity for her to vanish with Owen's funds and other accumulated possessions. I agreed enthusiastically, suggesting it was a good idea. Her smile broadened, thinking she had triumphed. 4 days later, Gabrielle contacted me. She requested my presence at her office, stating that the matter couldn't be discussed over the phone. Upon arriving, I found the conference room table laden with printed documents, financial statements, corporate registrations, property records, photographs, driver's licenses, and professional headshots of men unknown to me. Your wife's true name is Clarissa Hartwell, Gabrielle started. Born at 36 in Boise, Idaho, she worked as a paralegal for Whitman and Associates, an estate planning firm from ages 22 to 25, getting fired for unauthorized access to client files. No charges were filed, the firm kept it discreet. She pushed a document across the table. At age 26, she wed a man named Gregory Donovan, a real estate developer in Portland, married for 14 months. In that period, Donovan lost his mother and inherited a construction company worth about $3 million. $6 months later, Clarissa filed for divorce due to irreconcilable differences, receiving a settlement of $400,000, which Donovan accepted without argument. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, Donovan found $200,000 missing from his business accounts. Transactions made with forged authorization during their marriage were reported, but the investigation yielded no results as Clarissa had vanished by then. No trace of her address was found. The case stalled, leaving me with a tight chest. There's more to it, isn't there? Gabrielle suggested. Donovan married again at 29, Vincent Caruso, an emergency room physician in Sacramento. They were married for 32 months before Donovan's father passed away, leaving an inheritance of $700,000. Clarissa convinced Vincent to invest $400,000 in a medical equipment startup she had researched, but the company collapsed within 6 months, resulting in a total loss. After accusing him of financial mismanagement and filing for divorce, she obtained a settlement before vanishing. Later, Vincent uncovered that a startup was associated with a Cayman Islands trust-owned shell company, whose beneficiary remained unknown. Clarissa slid documents across the table, each one revealing a different husband, each married under slightly distinct circumstances, each inheriting money. Each man had either squandered or lost all of their inherited wealth through various schemes, failed investments, and vanished business opportunities. 4 husbands before you, Gabrielle stated. You're the 5th. She intended to take Owen K. Zolano's money, marry him afterward, and then seek another inheritance opportunity. I stared at the photos. Each one depicted a man who loved her, a man who trusted her. Men she exploited, Gabrielle concluded. The pattern is clear. A woman selectively preys on men in their 30s and 40s who have aging affluent parents. She forms connections, cultivates trust, patiently waits for inheritances, then exploits the situation by acquiring maximum assets via either shrewd marriage settlements or deceitful means, sometimes employing both tactics. Her schemes are intricate, involving offshore accounts, shell companies, and counterfeit documents. Over a 14-year period, she amassed approximately $4.2 million in untaxed, untraceable wealth until it was tracked down. Gabrielle's smile held a calculating edge. I recognized the pattern. Money circulated across various territories but eventually accumulated. For over a decade, she has meticulously constructed an intricate financial web with a main account in Singapore, secondary accounts in Panama and the Cayman Islands, and properties held through trusts in Belize. She maintains detailed records, spreadsheets, and documentation of her transactions because she is not merely a criminal but a strategist. As she turned her laptop toward me, bank statements and transaction histories appeared, filled with names, dates, and every detail. 4 days prior, $800,000 was transferred to the Cayman account, remaining untouched due to scheduled transfer protocols to evade automated fraud detection. In 3 days, the funds will move to Singapore, making recovery nearly impossible. I scrutinized the evidence strewn across the table, years of calculated exploitation, men whose lives she had infiltrated like a parasite, draining resources and leaving nothing behind. What should I do? Inquire to Gabrielle, who then shuts her laptop. Reach out to Owen Casolano, a federal prosecutor. Ensure Clarissa doesn't board a plane bound for Santa Fe or any other location within the next 72 hours. Upon meeting at a neutral coffee shop, Owen appeared disheveled and tired, likely not having changed his jacket for days. When I sat, he merely stared. I don't understand why I'm here, he admitted. I ruined your marriage. Can you assist me? You were merely a tool she utilized to ruin my marriage, I asserted. Moreover, you're not even her 6th victim. I displayed all the evidence Gabrielle had discovered. He perused the documents in silence, his jaw stiffening with each page until he reached the photographs of other men, at which point his hands began to tremble. She confessed she loved me, he muttered. She told us something we needed to hear, I retorted. She's adept. She learns her target's desires and transforms herself accordingly. After setting down the papers, Owen inquired, what happens next? He has arranged for a federal prosecutor to be notified, since it appears that she is now subject to penalties. The alleged crime in question involves fraud spanning multiple states and international boundaries. Investigator Gabrielle recruited Marcus Hayes, a former Secret Service agent, to monitor Clarissa due to her suspected identity theft, forgery, and money laundering activities. Hayes noticed Clarissa preparing to flee after 2 days, indicated by new passport photos, large envelope deliveries at the UPS store, ATM cash withdrawals, and structured transactions to avoid reporting thresholds. The prosecutor decided to take action the following day, coordinating with the FBI's Financial Crimes Division for a search warrant and arrest. Clarissa, unaware of being followed, planned an escape to a location without extradition treaties, assuming she had outsmarted everyone again. Hayes, filled with anger from 3 weeks of deceit, wanted justice for Owen, Gregory, Vincent, and other victims. At 5:30 a.m., he left the house through the garage, met Owen at his hotel, and received a call confirming Clarissa's arrest at 8:43 a.m. Carried all items, a secure box within her wardrobe containing 3 passports under distinct aliases, laptop with encrypted folders. Our forensic unit is currently decoding them, flash drives loaded with scanned documents dating back 14 years. She had collected souvenirs, photographs of every achievement, records of each transaction. She couldn't resist. Owen's visage contorted. He buried his face in his hands. I clutched the steering wheel and fixated on the road ahead. What next? I inquired. She will be brought before a federal magistrate this afternoon for arraignment. Given her potential to flee, I am requesting pre-trial detention without bail. Both of you will need to attend for formal statements, and Mr. Casolano, the forensic accountant, suggests that she has not transferred your funds to Singapore yet. There is a possibility we can seize the accounts and recover the money. Owen lifted his gaze. Actually, despite any guarantees, we are actively collaborating with Interpol and global banking authorities. Her one error was indulging greed, extracting funds too swiftly from you. This act left a trace we could pursue before she could conceal it. The hearing took place in a federal courthouse downtown. Owen, I, Gabrielle, and my lawyer sat in the gallery. When they escorted Clarissa in, attired in an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs, she seemed diminished, appearing as a fraud artist who had reached the end of her path. Her eyes found mine across the courtroom from where she was, reflecting her true identity, a con artist finally caught. A fleeting glimmer of something crossed her face, perhaps astonishment that I'd arrived, that I'd uncovered it, that the hunted had become the hunter. Then her countenance paled, stripping away the facade she'd maintained for everyone. All that remained was an emptiness. The prosecutor detailed the accusations: 6 counts of wire fraud, 4 counts of money laundering, 8 counts of identity theft, 3 counts of forgery. Each charge threatened years in a federal penitentiary. The judge, a woman in her 60s with steel gray hair and reading glasses, perused the case summary impassively. "Miss Hartwell," she stated, "you are accused of managing a complex fraud scheme that spanned numerous states and international boundaries over a period of 14 years. The authorities have provided evidence of repeated criminal activity aimed at financially exploiting various victims." "What is your plea, counsel?" Clarice's court-appointed attorney, standing due to the theft of her funds preventing bail access this morning, stated. "Not guilty." The prosecutor rose in response. "Your Honor, the defendant represents a significant flight risk. She was arrested during the process of fleeing the district. We discovered 3 passports under various aliases, evidence of money structuring to circumvent reporting rules, and travel documents suggesting an intent to depart the country within 48 hours. She has no genuine connections to this community. Her existence is based on deceit. In deception, we ask for remand without bail." The judge looked at Clarice. "Does counsel have any retort?" The public defender appeared weary. "Your Honor, Miss Hartwell lacks a criminal history." "She lacks a criminal history because she successfully evaded detection for over a decade," the judge countered. "I've examined the evidence summary. This is not an isolated mistake, but a deliberate, planned exploitation. The defendant has no bail awaiting the trial. A preliminary hearing will be scheduled 2 weeks from today." With that, the gavel fell. Clarice was taken away without looking back. Owen and I exited the courthouse into the cold November sun. For a prolonged period, we were silent. Eventually, Owen uttered, "Thank you." "What for?" he asked. "For believing me," I replied. "When I called you at 2 a.m., you could have ignored me. You could have turned your back. Instead, you listened. You assisted me. Given my role in your marriage's downfall, you had no hand in my marriage's demise," I stated. "My marriage dissolved 12 years ago. I simply wasn't aware of it yet. She married me for estate planning expertise and client contacts. You were married for an inheritance. We were both prey," Owen acknowledged, nodding slowly. "What lies ahead for you?" "Divorce, asset recovery, reconstruction. My lawyer is submitting an urgent plea to halt all joint assets and nullify transactions from the past year. Given her ongoing criminal accusations and suspected fraud during our marriage, I stand to keep all my initial investments. As for her, I consider the woman in the orange jumpsuit, the one who'd shared a bed with me for 12 years while orchestrating her next deception, the one who'd bid me goodbye every morning, concealing evidence of her crimes within encrypted files. 20 years in federal prison, I mused, perhaps even more. The prosecutor is amassing cases for each victim. Gregory, Vincent, Thomas, Anthony, all are collaborating. Each fraud allegation increases the sentence. The judge has declared Clarissa a repeat offender, not a first-time felon. She'll never be released. Owen offered his handshake. I reciprocated. "Should you require assistance," he said. "I will too," I responded. He departed. I remained in the parking lot, gazing at the courthouse. Inside, Clarissa was assimilated into the federal detention network, relinquishing lavish accommodations and secretive bank accounts. No more pursuits of wealthy men with ailing parents. Instead, a cell became her new dwelling. Reflecting on her actions, I departed in my vehicle, returning home. The house seemed altered now, oddly pristine despite the interference of the forensic team. They confiscated her laptop, documents, and false passports, effectively erasing every tangible evidence of her fabrications. I navigated to the bedroom, our bedroom, removed the linens and discarded them, filled the trash bin, opened the windows to allow November's chill to permeate, began compiling a list of necessities for transformation. Fresh locks, fresh bank accounts, credit monitoring updates, perhaps eventually new furnishings for rooms still redolent with her scent. Yet I required rest first, restorative sleep, not the agitated, anxious slumber of the guest room, not the sleep of someone being pursued by a spouse, the sleep of one who has survived. 7 months later, the trial ensued. The prosecution offered 847 pieces of evidence, including bank records, falsified documents, testimony from 6 victims, and forensic analysis of Clarissa's encrypted files. Her lawyer barely contested. What argument was there? The jury pondered for 4 hours, finding her guilty on all charges. The judge sentenced her to 23 years in federal prison with no parole. Restitution was ordered for all victims in the amount of $4.2 million plus interest and penalties. The money recoverable from the frozen accounts would be divided among the victims proportionally. Owen regained 600,000 out of his 800,000, while I got back the 300,000 Clarissa had embezzled from our joint accounts over the years. The others received smaller amounts, whatever could be traced and recovered. By then, it wasn't about the money. It was about seeing her face the repercussions of viewing people as resources to exploit. Following the verdict, the six of us, Gregory, Vincent, Thomas, Anthony, Owen, and myself, gathered outside the courtroom. We'd all delivered victim impact statements, all confronted her directly with what she had stolen from us. Not just money, trust, years of our lives, or the ability to embrace love without suspicion. "Does this provide closure?" Anthony inquired, being the eldest at 51, Clarissa's second husband who lost 800,000 through a fraudulent investment scheme. "No," I replied, "but it feels like justice." We shared contact information, pledged to keep in touch, though I doubted our future communications. Our bond was trauma, not friendship. Regardless, it mattered that we had all been present, that we had faced her together. I ended my marriage to Clarissa without contest, and my attorney stated she had cooperated in signing papers from prison, perhaps believing it would enhance her appeal, which ultimately failed. A year post-trial, I sold the house. Marie's overflowed of a marriage that felt fabricated. Purchased a more modest dwelling in another part of the city. Began seeing someone introduced by friends. A kindergarten teacher named Bate who remained ignorant of my identity and past ordeals until our fourth encounter when I disclosed everything to her. She listened without bias. Then she empathically stated, "That must have been excruciating. I'm sorry you had to endure that. Not how could you not see it? Or there must have been indications." Just empathy for the pain and recognition that wickedness can sometimes conceal itself behind a beautiful facade. 2 years later, Owen contacted me again. "I'm getting married," he said. "For real this time, to someone I've known for a decade, someone who was present before wealth and everything else. I thought you should be informed. Congratulations," I replied sincerely. "Will you attend the wedding?" he inquired, and I contemplated my response. Regarding attending a wedding for the man who inadvertently contributed to the demise of my marriage, despite him also being a victim, pondering whether I could genuinely detach the individual from the situation. "Yes," I replied, "I'll be there." And I was. I witnessed Owen marry a woman who cherished him for reasons disconnected from his inheritance or profession. I observed him smile without the haunted expression he'd borne in that coffee shop 2 years prior. I saw him restart his life. We all try to start anew, I pondered, or so we strive. I occasionally remember Clarissa, the woman I believed I was marrying versus the predator who targeted me before our first conversation even transpired, pondering whether any of it was authentic. The joy, the tranquil instances, and the life we constructed, which served merely as a facade for her deceit. My therapist contends that it doesn't matter, that the life I lived was genuine to me, regardless of its manipulation by her. I can grieve over what I believed was true, despite knowing it was false. That aspect is yet unresolved, but I'm also rebuilding. Bate and I have been a couple for 18 months now, discussing the possibility of cohabiting. We contemplate creating something authentic, founded on truth instead of deceit. At times, when I lie awake at night, I reminisce about that 2 a.m. call from Owen. I ponder how close Clarissa came to escaping the consequences if certain circumstances had been different. If Owen's father hadn't passed away when he did, or if Owen hadn't mentioned his trust to his attorney, or any minor variation in those events. She would still be at large, stalking her prey. Yet she is not out there. Instead, she is imprisoned in a federal penitentiary in Pennsylvania, serving a 23-year sentence for crimes against 6 men who had the misfortune of loving her. It must suffice that this is justice. It has to be.